books that suggest 1, 2, 3 steps to build up oneself's confidence. This confidence is of God. It comes from having a relationship with him. The problem with the world today, we have too many persons who do not have relationship with God. So therefore, when they come up against anything in their life, they begin to fold up and back up because they do not have relationship with God. When you live in turbulent times, such the times we are in the Bahamas are now living in, where the teaching and principles of God's word is no longer the center of the family cycle. Could I say that again? When we live in turbulent times, where the teaching and the principles of God's word is no longer the center of the family cycle, the enemy of God then steps up his program. Could I say that? Huh? Why do you think the dark cloud of lawlessness is hanging so low over this nation? Why do you think the long night of murder and hideous crimes is shattering us and has made us a fearful nation? The answer is simple. We are people who have turned away from God. We have turned away from the teaching and the principle of God's word. And when you turn away from God, you will find yourself in turbulent times. Hear this. The enemy has done a good job in convincing, in fooling a whole lot of you in believing that the church of the living God is only a place you go to if you can't find anything else to do on the Lord's day. Or if you don't feel too tired. Or if someone nagged you enough, you go just to get over the nagging. You see, the enemy has made us believe you don't need the covering of God over your life. He tells you you can get anything you want. You can do anything you please. You don't need God. And the sad thing about this, a whole lot of people believe the enemy. What the enemy does, he blesses, he allows you. He puts some things in your way. And then you believe you've arrived. You don't need God. You don't need the covering of the church. And all the enemy is doing is setting you up. A nation, my beloved, anytime a nation or people neglects the teaching of God's word, turbulent times will come. Could I tell you, in the midst of all these turbulence that's all around us, the Christian, the child of God, the blood-washed ones are confident that God whom they serve is already over in 208, setting up the year of new beginning. Oh, I need a joy right there. You see, for God's people, confidence is knowing God is for us. Hear the text. What then are we to say about these things? If God be for us, who is against us? In these words, we have the words of life. This truth is an absolute for every Christian. This truth does not depend upon the winds and the trends of time. It is as true today as it was when Paul spoke it over 2,000 years ago. Who can stand against the child of God? Who can stand against the people of God? When you know in your spiritual belly that God is for you and working it out for you, let the storm clouds rise. Let the thunder roll. Let the lightning flash. The God I serve is good and able. No matter how the forces of evil set themselves up against you, no matter how they set themselves up against the nation, we have the assurance that God is for us. The question then is, how can anything ultimately stand against you? What's the text? The God who did not withhold his own son, but give him up for all of us, will he not meet you with all the provisions of grace that you need during your life here and the life to come? Here the text. When God did not withhold his own son, but was willing to give him up for our salvation, for the freedom of mankind. This was the ultimate proof that God himself has justified us, forgiven us, and positioned us. He puts us